James Adams sat in the opulent bar of an exclusive club, surrounded by the trappings of luxury his fortune could buy. Crystal glasses clinked softly as well-dressed patrons engaged in hushed conversations about business deals and social gossip. Despite the wealth and prestige that enveloped him, James felt an emptiness gnawing at his core. At 27, James had experienced his fair share of romantic relationships, but they all seemed to follow the same disappointing pattern. Women were initially drawn to his charming smile and witty banter, but as soon as they discovered his family name and the vast fortune attached to it, their interest shifted. Suddenly, their eyes would light up with a different kind of spark, one that spoke more of dollar signs than genuine affection. He took a sip of his whiskey, savoring the burn as it slid down his throat. The amber liquid swirled in his glass, a reflection of his turbulent thoughts. James couldn't help but wonder if he would ever find someone who truly saw him for who he was, beyond the Adams name and the zeros in his bank account. His best friend, Kevin, sat across from him, observing James's pensive expression with concern. They had known each other since childhood, long before the weight of the Adams legacy had fully settled on James's shoulders. Kevin was one of the few people who still treated James like a normal person, and for that, James was eternally grateful. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world," Kevin remarked, breaking the silence. "What's on your mind?" James sighed, setting his glass down on the polished mahogany bar. "I'm just tired, Kevin. Tired of all this." He gestured vaguely at their surroundings. "The money, the expectations, the fake smiles and hollow relationships. I feel like I'm suffocating in a golden cage." Kevin nodded sympathetically, understanding the unique challenges his friend faced. "Have you considered taking a break? Maybe traveling incognito for a while?" James shook his head. "I've tried that, but no matter where I go, the Adams name seems to follow me. It's like I can't escape my own shadow." A moment of silence passed between them as Kevin pondered his friend's predicament. Then, a mischievous glint appeared in his eye. "You know, James, there might be a way for you to experience life from a different perspective right here in your own backyard." James raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite his melancholy mood. "What do you mean?" Kevin leaned in, lowering his voice conspiratorially. "Why don't you disguise yourself and go work at one of your own hotels? Not as the owner, but as a regular employee. It would give you a chance to meet people who don't know who you really are." For a moment, James stared at his friend as if he had grown a second head. Then, slowly a smile began to tug at the corners of his mouth. The idea was absurd, crazy even, but it also held an undeniable appeal. To be just James without the weight of the Adams legacy. To interact with people who saw him as an equal, not as a potential meal ticket or business opportunity. "That's actually not a bad idea," James admitted, feeling a spark of excitement for the first time in months. "But how would I pull it off? I've never worked a day in my life outside of the family business." Kevin grinned, pleased to see some life returning to his friend's eyes. "That's the beauty of it, James. You'll get to learn, to experience things from a completely different perspective. It'll be challenging, sure, but isn't that what you've been craving? A real challenge, something that your money can't solve for you." As the idea took root in James's mind, he found himself imagining the possibilities. He could work at the front desk, interact with guests, learn the ins and outs of hotel operations from the ground up. It would be a far cry from the board meetings and financial reports he was used to, but that was precisely the point. "I'd have to be careful," James mused, his mind already racing with plans. "Choose a hotel far enough away that I won't be recognized. Create a believable backstory. Figure out how to explain my sudden interest in hospitality to my mother." At the mention of his mother, James faltered slightly. Linda Adams was a force to be reckoned with, a woman who had taken the reins of the Adams hotel chain after his father's passing and steered it to even greater heights. She had always pushed James to take a more active role in the family business, grooming him to eventually take over. How would she react to this impulsive plan? As if reading his thoughts, Kevin placed a reassuring hand on James's shoulder. "Your mother loves you, James. She might not understand at first, but I think she'll respect your desire to learn and grow. Just be honest with her about your motivations." James nodded, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement bubbling up inside him. This crazy plan might just be the fresh start he needed, a chance to rediscover himself and maybe, just maybe, find the genuine connection he'd been longing for. As they left the club that night, James felt lighter than he had in years. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with potential pitfalls and challenges, but for once he was looking forward to facing them head-on. Tomorrow he would begin the process of transforming himself from James Adams, heir to the Adams hotel fortune, into just James, an ordinary guy looking to make his way in the world. Little did he know that this decision would set in motion a series of events that would change his life forever, leading him to discover not only his true self, but also a love deeper and more genuine than he had ever dared to dream possible. The following morning, James woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. The idea that had seemed almost ludicrous the night before now felt like a beacon of hope, guiding him towards a new chapter in his life. As he sipped his morning coffee, he began to formulate a plan. First, he needed to choose the right hotel. It had to be far enough away to minimize the risk of being recognized, yet still within the Adams hotel chain. After careful consideration, he settled on a mid-sized property in a coastal town several hours away. It was popular enough to provide a diverse range of experiences, but not so prestigious that it would attract attention from the upper echelons of society who might recognize him. Next came the challenge of creating a believable backstory. James decided to keep it simple. He would present himself as a college graduate with a degree in hospitality management, eager to gain practical experience in the industry. It was close enough to the truth to be convincing, yet far removed from his actual circumstances. As he prepared to leave his penthouse apartment, James caught sight of himself in the mirror. The designer suit and perfectly coiffed hair wouldn't do for his new persona. He rummaged through his closet, finding the most casual clothes. He owned a pair of jeans and a simple button-down shirt. It felt strange, almost like putting on a costume, but James knew this was just the beginning of the changes he'd need to make. The most daunting task, however, still lay ahead. Telling his mother. James knew he couldn't simply disappear without explanation. Linda Adams was not a woman to be trifled with, and her network of connections meant she could easily track him down if she suspected something was amiss. With a deep breath, James made his way to the Adams Hotel headquarters. The staff greeted him with their usual deference, unaware that this might be the last time they'd see him as the heir apparent for a while. He knocked on his mother's office door, steeling himself for the conversation to come. "Come in," Linda's authoritative voice called out. James entered the office, taking in the familiar sight of his mother behind her imposing desk. Linda Adams was a striking woman in her early 60s, with sharp features and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through any facade. She had taken over the company after his father's passing, steering it through turbulent times with unwavering determination. "James," she said, her tone softening slightly at the sight of her son, "this is a pleasant surprise. What brings you here so early?" James took a seat across from her, gathering his thoughts. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." Linda's eyebrow arched, her full attention now on James. "Go on," she prompted. Taking a deep breath, James launched into his explanation. He told her about his feelings of disconnection, his desire to understand the business from the ground up, and finally his plan to work incognito at one of their hotels. As he spoke, James watched his mother's expression change from surprise to concern, and finally to a mixture of emotions he couldn't quite decipher. When he finished, there was a long moment of silence, broken only by the soft ticking of the antique clock on the wall. "James," Linda began, her voice carefully controlled, "what you're proposing is unconventional, to say the least. Have you really thought this through? You've never worked a day in your life outside of board meetings and charity galas. How do you expect to suddenly blend in as an ordinary employee?" James leaned forward, his determination evident in his voice. "That's exactly why I need to do this, Mom. I've been sheltered my entire life, groomed to take over a company I don't fully understand. How can I lead effectively if I don't know what it's like for the people who make our hotels run day in and day out?" Linda's expression softened slightly, a hint of pride mixing with her concern. "You sound just like your father when he was your age," she said softly. "He always believed in understanding every aspect of the business." Encouraged by this, James pressed on. "I'm not running away from my responsibilities, Mom. I'm trying to prepare myself to handle them better. Please give me this chance to learn and grow." Linda stood up and walked to the window, gazing out at the city skyline. For a moment, James feared she would forbid him from going through with the plan. But when she turned back to face him, there was a new resolve in her eyes. "All right, James," she said, "I won't stop you. But I have conditions. First, you'll check in with me regularly, not as my son, but as an employee reporting to upper management. I want to hear about your experiences, your challenges, everything. Second, this experiment has a time limit, 6 months. After that, we'll reassess." James felt a wave of relief wash over him. "Thank you, Mom. I promise I won't let you down." Linda walked around the desk and placed a hand on James's shoulder. "You're an adult now and can make your own decisions. But remember, everything in life has consequences. I hope you're prepared for them, whatever they may be." As James left his mother's office, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years he felt truly alive. He was stepping into the unknown, leaving behind the comfort and security of his privileged life. Over the next few days, James threw himself into preparations. He rented a modest furnished apartment in the coastal town, far removed from the luxury he was accustomed to. He practiced introducing himself as just James, leaving out his last name and any mention of his background. The night before his departure, As he packed a suitcase with clothes that would have been considered casual wear for a yacht trip in his old life, James caught his reflection in the mirror. The man staring back at him looked different somehow. There was a spark in his eyes that had been missing for too long. "This is it," he told his reflection, "a new beginning." As he drifted off to sleep that night, James couldn't help but wonder about the adventures that awaited him. Little did he know that his decision to step out of his golden cage would lead him to discover not just the inner workings of a hotel, but the true meaning of love, friendship, and self-discovery. The coastal town of Seaview greeted James with a refreshing sea breeze and the distant cry of seagulls as he stepped out of his rental car. The Adams Grand Hotel stood before him, its elegant facade a familiar sight, yet now holding a new significance. This would be his home and workplace for the next 6 months. Taking a deep breath, James shouldered his bag and walked through the main entrance. The lobby was bustling with activity, guests checking in and out, bellhops maneuvering luggage carts, and the constant hum of conversation. It was a world he had observed from afar countless times, but never truly been a part of. At the reception desk, a blonde woman in her early 30s greeted him with a warm smile. "Welcome to Adams Grand Hotel. How may I assist you today?" James cleared his throat, suddenly feeling nervous. "Hi, I'm James Parker. I'm the new receptionist. It's my first day." The woman's smile widened. "Oh, of course, we've been expecting you. I'm Melissa, the hotel manager. It's wonderful to meet you, James." As Melissa came around the desk to shake his hand, James couldn't help but notice her striking green eyes and the way her smile seemed to light up her entire face. He quickly pushed those thoughts aside, reminding himself that he was here to work and learn, not to get distracted. "Let me show you around and introduce you to the team," Melissa said, gesturing for him to follow her. Over the next hour, James was given a whirlwind tour of the hotel. He met the housekeeping staff, the kitchen team, and the maintenance crew. Each department was a well-oiled machine, with everyone knowing their role and working together seamlessly. James felt a mix of admiration and trepidation. How would he ever fit into this intricate system? As they walked, Melissa explained the hotel's operations in detail. James found himself genuinely fascinated by the behind-the-scenes workings he had never considered before. He asked questions eagerly, and Melissa seemed pleased by his enthusiasm. "You seem to have a real interest in hotel management, James," she remarked as they made their way back to the lobby. James nodded, careful not to reveal too much. "I've always been fascinated by the hospitality industry. There's something special about creating a home away from home for people." Melissa's eyes lit up at his words. "That's exactly how I feel. It's not just about providing a room and amenities. It's about creating experiences and memories." As they reached the reception area, Melissa introduced James to his fellow receptionists. Sarah, a bubbly redhead in her mid-20s, immediately volunteered to show him the ropes. "Don't worry, James," Sarah said with a wink. "We'll have you checking in guests like a pro in no time." Over the next few hours, James shadowed Sarah, observing how she handled check-ins, answered phone calls, and dealt with guest inquiries. It was a far cry from the boardroom meetings he was used to, but James found himself enjoying the direct interaction with guests and the satisfaction of solving their problems. However, his first real challenge came just before the end of his shift. A clearly agitated guest stormed up to the reception desk, his face red with anger. "This is unacceptable," the man thundered, slamming his keycard on the counter. "I specifically requested a room with an ocean view, and I've been given one overlooking the parking lot." Sarah looked at James, silently encouraging him to handle the situation. James felt a moment of panic in his old life. He would have simply offered an upgrade to a suite or some other lavish compensation. But now, he had to think on his feet. Taking a deep breath, James addressed the guest calmly. "I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience, sir. Let me see what I can do to rectify this situation." He quickly checked the hotel's booking system, relieved to find that there was indeed an ocean view room available. "Sir, we do have an ocean view room available. I'd be happy to arrange for your move immediately. Additionally, to make up for the inconvenience, may I offer you a complimentary breakfast for the duration of your stay?" The guest's anger seemed to deflate slightly. "Well, I suppose that would be acceptable." James efficiently processed the room change and arranged for a bellhop to assist with moving the guest's luggage. As the guest walked away, noticeably calmer, James felt a surge of satisfaction. "Well done, James," Sarah exclaimed. "You handled that like a seasoned pro." James couldn't help but smile, feeling a sense of accomplishment he hadn't experienced in a long time. It was a small victory, but it felt more real and satisfying than any business deal he had ever closed. As his shift came to an end, Melissa approached him. "I heard about how you handled that situation with the disgruntled guest. Excellent work, James. Keep this up, and you'll go far in this industry." James thanked her, feeling a warmth in his chest at her praise. As he left the hotel that evening, he realized that for the first time in years, he was looking forward to coming to work the next day. Over the next few weeks, James settled into his role at the hotel. He quickly became known among the staff for his dedication and willingness to learn. His natural charisma, honed over years of social events and business meetings, served him well in dealing with guests. One day, while on his break, James found himself in the hotel's maintenance room, fascinated by the complex systems that kept the building running smoothly. It was there that he met Edward, the 58-year-old maintenance manager. Edward was a quiet, unassuming man with kind eyes and a wealth of knowledge about the hotel. As James peppered him with questions about the building's infrastructure, Edward seemed pleasantly surprised by his interest. "You know, James," Edward said, his eyes twinkling, "not many young folks these days care to learn about what goes on behind the walls. But let me tell you, understanding these systems is key to truly grasping how a hotel operates." From that day on, James found himself spending more and more of his free time with Edward, learning about everything from the hotel's electrical systems to its intricate plumbing network. Edward became a mentor of sorts, always ready with a piece of advice or a word of encouragement. As the weeks turned into months, James found himself truly enjoying his new life. The work was challenging in ways he had never experienced before, but it was also deeply satisfying. He was learning something new every day, not just about hotel operations, but about people, their needs, their expectations, and how to meet them. But more than that, James was discovering a side of himself he never knew existed. He was no longer just the heir to a fortune, defined by his family name and bank account. Here, he was simply James, valued for his hard work, his quick thinking, and his genuine care for others. As he walked home one evening, the sea breeze ruffling his hair, James realized that he had never felt more alive. The journey he had embarked on was changing him in ways he had never anticipated, and he couldn't wait to see where it would lead him next. As the weeks turned into months, James found himself settling into a comfortable routine at the Adams Grand Hotel. His days were filled with the hustle and bustle of hotel life, from checking in excited tourists to solving unexpected problems that seemed to crop up at the most inconvenient times. Yet, despite the challenges, James found himself thriving in ways he had never anticipated. One particularly busy afternoon, as James was juggling multiple check-ins and a minor crisis involving a malfunctioning air conditioner, he caught sight of Melissa expertly navigating the chaos. She moved through the lobby with grace and authority, her presence immediately calming frantic guests and rallying stressed staff members. James couldn't help but admire her leadership skills. In his previous life, he had attended countless seminars and workshops on effective management, but watching Melissa in action was a masterclass in itself. She had a way of making everyone feel heard and valued, while still maintaining the high standards the Adams brand was known for. As the rush died down and things returned to a manageable level of activity, Melissa approached the reception desk where James was tidying up some paperwork. "Great job handling that situation with the Johnsons, James," she said, her green eyes twinkling with approval. "You've really come into your own these past few months." James felt a warmth spread through his chest at her praise. "Thank you, Melissa. I've had an excellent teacher," he replied, hoping his tone conveyed casual friendliness rather than the growing attraction he felt towards her. Melissa laughed, the sound light and musical. "Oh, I think you're selling yourself short. You have a natural talent for this industry. Have you ever considered pursuing a management position?" The question caught James off guard. In his real life, he was already at the top of the management ladder, poised to take over the entire Adams hotel chain. But here, as just James, the idea of climbing the ranks based on his own merit was oddly thrilling. "I hadn't really thought about it," he admitted. "I'm still learning so much every day." Melissa nodded approvingly. "That's a great attitude to have. Never stop learning, that's what I always say. You know, we have a management trainee program coming up. You should consider applying." As she walked away to attend to other matters, James found himself pondering her suggestion. The idea of pursuing a career in hotel management, starting from the bottom and working his way up, held an appeal he had never expected. Over the next few weeks, James found himself spending more time with Melissa, both during work hours and occasionally during their breaks. They would sit in the staff room, sharing stories about difficult guests and laughing over the more absurd requests they had received. James was fascinated by Melissa's journey in the hospitality industry. She had started as a housekeeper during college and had worked her way up through sheer determination and hard work. Her passion for creating exceptional experiences for guests was infectious, and James found himself increasingly drawn to her enthusiasm and dedication. One evening, as they were both finishing up a late shift, Melissa suggested they grab a coffee at the small cafe down the street from the hotel. James agreed, trying to ignore the flutter in his stomach at the prospect of spending time with her outside of work. The cafe was a cozy little place, with mismatched furniture and the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans filling the air. As they settled into a quiet corner with their drinks, James felt a sense of comfort and ease he had rarely experienced in his previous life of high-stakes business meetings and formal galas. "So, James," Melissa began, wrapping her hands around her steaming mug, "what made you decide to pursue a career in hospitality? You seem to have a knack for it, but I get the feeling it wasn't always your plan." James paused, carefully considering his response. He couldn't tell her the whole truth, but he didn't want to lie outright either. "I guess you could say I was looking for a change," he finally said. "I wanted to do something that felt real, you know? Something where I could make a tangible difference in people's lives, even if it's just ensuring they have a comfortable stay." Melissa nodded, her eyes soft with understanding. "I get that. It's why I love this job so much. Every day is an opportunity to create a positive experience for someone." As they continued to talk, sharing stories and aspirations, James felt a growing connection with Melissa. She was intelligent, compassionate, and had a wry sense of humor that often caught him by surprise. For the first time in his life, James found himself genuinely interested in someone, not for what they could offer him in terms of status or connections, but simply for who they were as a person. The evening flew by, and before they knew it, the cafe was closing. As they walked back towards the hotel, James felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. He was undeniably developing feelings for Melissa, but the secret of his true identity loomed large in his mind. How could he pursue a relationship built on such a significant omission? Over the following weeks, James and Melissa's friendship continued to grow. They began spending more time together outside of work, exploring the charming coastal town and discovering shared interests. James found himself opening up to her in ways he never had with anyone before, sharing his hopes, fears, and dreams, albeit with certain details strategically omitted. One sunny Saturday afternoon, they decided to take a walk along the beach. The sound of waves lapping at the shore and seagulls crying overhead created a peaceful backdrop for their conversation. "You know," Melissa said, her bare feet leaving imprints in the damp sand, "I'm really glad you came to work at the hotel. You've brought a new energy to the place. And, well, I've really enjoyed getting to know you." James felt his heart race at her words. "I'm glad too, Melissa. These past few months have been, well, they've been some of the best of my life." As they walked, their hands brushed against each other, sending a jolt of electricity through James. Almost without thinking, he reached out and took her hand in his. Melissa looked up at him, a soft smile playing on her lips, and intertwined her fingers with his. In that moment, standing on the beach with the woman he was quickly falling for, James felt a sense of contentment he had never experienced before. But along with the joy came a pang of guilt. Melissa didn't know the whole truth about him, and the longer he waited to tell her, the harder it would become. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, James knew he had a decision to make. He was falling in love with Melissa, but he was also living a lie. Sooner or later, he would have to reveal the truth about who he really was, and hope that the connection they had built was strong enough to withstand the revelation. As they turned to head back, the gentle sea breeze carrying the promise of new beginnings, James couldn't help but feel that his journey of self-discovery was far from over. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in his life he was excited to see where it might lead. Dear viewers, if you've enjoyed this captivating tale of love, self-discovery, and the unexpected twists life can bring, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you'll ensure you never miss an update on James and Melissa's evolving story, as well as other enchanting narratives that await. Join our community of story lovers and let's embark on more exciting adventures together. As James and Melissa's relationship blossomed, the weight of his secret grew heavier with each passing day. He found himself torn between the joy of their growing connection and the guilt of his deception. Every moment they shared was tinged with the knowledge that he wasn't being entirely truthful, and it was beginning to wear on him. One evening, after a particularly lovely dinner at a small seaside restaurant, James knew he couldn't keep up the charade any longer. They were walking along the moonlit beach, the sound of waves gently lapping at the shore, providing a soothing backdrop to their conversation. "Melissa," James began, his heart racing, "there's something I need to tell you." Melissa turned to look at him, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "What is it, James? You know you can tell me anything." Taking a deep breath, James steeled himself for what was to come. "I haven't been entirely honest with you about who I am." Melissa's brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" "My name isn't James Parker. It's James Adams. I'm the heir to the Adams hotel chain." The silence that followed his confession was deafening. Melissa's eyes widened in shock, and she took a step back, her hand slipping from his grasp. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the waves. You're joking, right?" James shook his head, his heart sinking at the hurt and confusion in her eyes. "I'm not joking. I'm so sorry, Melissa. I never meant to deceive you. I wanted to experience what it was like to be normal, to be valued for who I am, not for my family name or my money." Melissa's expression cycled through a range of emotions: shock, hurt, anger, and finally, a deep sense of betrayal. All this time, everything we've shared, it was all based on a lie. "No," James exclaimed, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away. "My feelings for you are real, Melissa. More real than anything I've ever felt. I didn't know how to tell you the truth without risking losing you." Melissa wrapped her arms around herself, as if trying to shield herself from his words. "I need time to process this, James, or whoever you are. I can't be around you right now." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving James standing alone on the beach, the weight of his revelation crushing down on him. The following days were some of the most difficult James had ever experienced. Melissa requested time off from work, leaving him to face the curious and concerned glances of their co-workers alone. The hotel, once a place of joy and discovery, now felt oppressive and lonely without her presence. It was during this time that James found solace in his friendship with Edward. The older man listened patiently as James poured out the whole story, offering neither judgment nor absolution, but rather the quiet understanding of someone who had seen his fair share of life's complexities. "You know," James, Edward said one afternoon as they sat in the maintenance room, surrounded by the hum of machinery, "life has a funny way of teaching us lessons. Sometimes the very thing we think we're running from is exactly what we need to face." James nodded, grateful for Edward's wisdom. "I just wish I knew how to make things right with Melissa." Edward placed a comforting hand on James's shoulder. "Give her time, son. The truth can be a bitter pill to swallow, but if what you two have is real, it'll find a way." As the days turned into weeks, James threw himself into his work, determined to prove that his dedication to the hotel and its guests was genuine, regardless of his true identity. He took on extra shifts, mentored new employees, and went above and beyond to ensure every guest had an exceptional experience. It was during one of these late nights, as James was helping a family with a last-minute check-in, that Melissa returned to the hotel. She stood quietly at the edge of the lobby, watching as James patiently explained the amenities, and went out of his way to make the tired travelers feel welcome. As the family headed towards the elevators, Melissa approached the reception desk. James's heart skipped a beat when he saw her. "Melissa," he breathed, hardly daring to hope. "You're back." She nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "I am. And I've been doing a lot of thinking, James." "I understand if you can't forgive me," James said quickly. "I know what I did was wrong. And—" Melissa held up a hand to stop him. "Let me finish. I was hurt, yes, and angry. But I've also been thinking about everything we've shared these past few months. The James the first got to know, the one who works tirelessly for the guests, who treats every employee with respect, who lights up when he talks about making people's stays special. That's the real you, isn't it?" James nodded, hope blossoming in his chest. "It is. Being here, working alongside you and everyone else, it's shown me who I really want to be." Melissa took a deep breath. "I can't say I'm not still a little hurt by the deception, but I understand why you did it. And I think I'd like to get to know the real James Adams, if he's willing to let me." The smile that spread across James's face was brighter than any she had seen before. "I'd like that very much, Melissa." As they stood there in the quiet lobby, the promise of a new beginning hanging between them, James realized that his journey of self-discovery had led him exactly where he needed to be. He had found not only himself but also a love that saw beyond titles and bank accounts to the person he truly was. In the days that followed, James and Melissa began the process of rebuilding their relationship, this time on a foundation of complete honesty. James introduced Melissa to his mother, Linda, who was impressed by the young woman's strength of character and her positive influence on her son. As for James, he decided to continue working at the hotel, not as an undercover boss, but as someone genuinely committed to learning the business from the ground up. He knew that one day he would take over the family company, but when that day came, he would do so with a deep understanding of every aspect of the hotel industry and a genuine appreciation for the hard work of every employee. And so, dear readers, James's impulsive decision to step out of his comfort zone led him to find not only true love but also his true self. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures in life come from being honest about who we are and opening ourselves up to new experiences. If you've enjoyed this tale of love, self-discovery, and the power of honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment with the number 1 to let us know you've enjoyed this story and would like to hear more like it. Your feedback helps us bring you more of the content you love and we're always excited to hear your thoughts on our stories. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we look forward to sharing many more adventures with you. As James and Melissa's relationship blossomed anew, built on a foundation of honesty and mutual understanding, they found themselves facing a new set of challenges. The revelation of James's true identity had sent ripples through the hotel staff, and while most were supportive, some couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal. James, determined to prove his commitment to both the hotel and his colleagues, redoubled his efforts. He continued to work regular shifts at the reception desk, refusing any special treatment. His genuine passion for hospitality and his willingness to learn from everyone around him gradually won over even the most skeptical of his co-workers. One sunny afternoon, as James was helping Edward with some routine maintenance, the older man turned to him with a twinkle in his eye. "You know, James, I've seen a lot of people come and go in this hotel over the years, but I've never seen anyone quite like you." James looked up from the pipe he was examining, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean, Edward?" Edward leaned against the wall, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Most people born into wealth and privilege, they don't understand the value of hard work. They don't see the beauty in the small things, the everyday miracles that make a place like this run smoothly. But you've got a different perspective." James felt a warmth spread through his chest at Edward's words. "I have you and everyone else here to thank for that. You've all taught me so much." Edward nodded, a proud smile on his face. "And that's why I think you're going to do great things, James. Not because of your name or your inheritance, but because you understand what really matters." As the weeks passed, James found himself torn between his growing love for the day-to-day operations of the hotel and his looming responsibilities to the Adams hotel chain as a whole. He knew that eventually he would need to step into his role as heir, but the thought of leaving behind the life he had built in Seaview filled him with a sense of loss. It was Melissa who finally helped him see a way forward. They were walking along the beach one evening, hand in hand, when she broached the subject. "James," she began, her voice soft but determined, "I've been thinking about your situation, about the decision you're facing." James squeezed her hand gently, encouraging her to continue. "What if," Melissa said, her eyes bright with excitement, "you could bring what you've learned here to the entire Adams hotel chain? What if you could implement policies that value every employee, that focus on creating genuine experiences for guests across all your properties?" James stopped walking, struck by the brilliance of her suggestion. "Melissa, that's genius. We could revolutionize the way the company operates, make it a place where everyone feels valued and heard." Melissa beamed at him, her smile as radiant as the setting sun. "Exactly. And I was hoping I might be able to help you with that." James's heart skipped a beat. "You mean?" "I mean," Melissa said, taking both of his hands in hers, "that I love you, James Adams, and I want to be by your side, whether that's here in Seaview or wherever your journey takes you next." In that moment, with the sound of waves crashing against the shore and the warmth of Melissa's hands in his, James felt a sense of clarity he had never experienced before. He knew with absolute certainty that this was where he was meant to be, and Melissa was the person he was meant to be with. Dropping to one knee in the sand, James looked up at Melissa, his eyes shining with love and determination. "Melissa, you've shown me what it means to truly live, to find joy in the simplest things and to value people for who they are, not what they have. You've helped me become the man I've always wanted to be. Will you marry me?" Tears of joy streaming down her face, Melissa nodded emphatically. "Yes, James, yes, I will marry you." As they embraced, the sun dipping below the horizon and painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, James felt a sense of completeness he had never known before. He had embarked on this journey seeking to find himself, and in the process he had found so much more true love, genuine friendships, and a purpose that went beyond his family name. In the days that followed, James and Melissa began to plan not just their wedding, but their future together. They envisioned a new era for the Adams hotel chain, one that combined James's newfound appreciation for the ground-level operations with Melissa's expertise in management and guest relations. As news of their engagement spread through the hotel, there was a palpable sense of joy and excitement. Edward, with tears in his eyes, hugged them both, whispering words of congratulation and blessing. Even Linda, when informed of the engagement, expressed her wholehearted approval, recognizing in Melissa the perfect partner for her son and for the future of their company. And so, dear readers, as we come to the end of this chapter in James and Melissa's story, we're reminded of the transformative power of love, honesty, and the courage to step outside our comfort zones. James's journey from a disillusioned heir to a man who found purpose and love is a testament to the unexpected ways life can surprise us when we open ourselves up to new experiences. We want to extend our heartfelt thanks to you, our wonderful audience, for joining us on this incredible journey. Your enthusiasm and engagement have made telling this story an absolute joy. We can sense your investment in James and Melissa's love story, your appreciation for the growth and challenges they've faced, and your excitement for what the future holds for them. As we look ahead to the next chapter in their lives, their wedding, their plans for the hotel chain, and the adventures that await them, we're thrilled to have you with us. Your support and dedication to following this tale have been truly inspiring. We'd love to hear your thoughts on James and Melissa's journey so far. What moments touched you the most? What lessons do you think we can all learn from their story? Your insights and reflections not only enrich our storytelling but also create a wonderful community of engaged readers. Thank you once again for being part of this experience. We're excited to continue this journey with you, exploring the power of love, self-discovery, and the beauty of embracing life's unexpected turns. Stay tuned for more chapters in this heartwarming saga. The best is yet to come. The news of James and Melissa's engagement spread through the Adams Grand Hotel like wildfire, bringing with it a wave of joy and excitement. The staff, who had come to love and respect both James and Melissa, were thrilled to see their relationship blossom into something so beautiful and meaningful. As the couple began to plan their wedding, they decided that there was no better place to celebrate their union than the very hotel where their love story had begun. The Adams Grand Hotel would serve as the perfect backdrop for their special day, a symbol of their journey and the future they were building together. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of activity. James and Melissa, determined to make their celebration a reflection of their values and experiences, insisted on being involved in every aspect of the planning. They wanted their wedding to be not just a celebration of their love, but a testament to the community they had become a part of. Linda Adams, initially skeptical of her son's unconventional approach to learning the family business, had come to see the wisdom in James's choices. She threw herself into the wedding preparations with gusto, working alongside the hotel staff to ensure every detail was perfect. Her interactions with the employees, once limited to formal meetings and performance reviews, became more personal and warm as she saw firsthand the dedication and passion they brought to their work. Edward, who had become like a second father to James, was asked to walk Melissa down the aisle. The older man's eyes had filled with tears when they made the request, and he embraced them both, too overcome with emotion to speak. As the big day approached, guests began to arrive from all over the world. Business associates, friends, and family members flocked to the coastal town, filling the Adams Grand Hotel and nearby accommodations. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and joy. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, as if nature itself was celebrating the union of James and Melissa. The hotel was a hive of activity, with staff and wedding planners putting the finishing touches on the decorations and arrangements. In her bridal suite, Melissa stood before a full-length mirror, her wedding gown a vision of elegant simplicity. Sarah, her friend and colleague from the reception desk, helped her with the final adjustments to her veil. "You look absolutely stunning," Sarah said, her voice filled with admiration and a hint of happy tears. Melissa smiled, her eyes shining with joy and a touch of nervousness. "Thank you, Sarah. I can hardly believe this day is finally here." Meanwhile, in his own suite, James adjusted his boatie, his hands slightly shaky with excitement. Kevin, his childhood friend who had inadvertently set this whole journey in motion, stood beside him, beaming with pride. "You know," Kevin said, clapping him on the shoulder, "when I suggested you go undercover at one of your hotels, I never imagined it would lead to this. But I've never seen you happier." James grinned, his heart full of gratitude for his friend's fateful suggestion. "I owe you one, buddy. You helped me find not just myself, but the love of my life." As the ceremony time approached, guests began to fill the hotel's grand ballroom, which had been transformed into a breathtaking wedding venue. Soft lighting, elegant floral arrangements, and touches of coastal-inspired decor created an atmosphere that was both luxurious and inviting. James took his place at the altar, his heart pounding with anticipation. As the music swelled and the doors opened, revealing Melissa on Edward's arm, a collective gasp of appreciation rippled through the assembled guests. Melissa was radiant, her beauty matched only by the love shining in her eyes as she locked gazes with James. The ceremony was a beautiful blend of tradition and personal touches. James and Melissa had written their own vows, each promising not just love and fidelity, but a commitment to the values they had discovered together: honesty, hard work, and the importance of treating every person with dignity and respect. As they exchanged rings and were pronounced husband and wife, the ballroom erupted in cheers and applause. The love between James and Melissa was palpable, touching the hearts of everyone present. The reception that followed was a joyous celebration, filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt speeches. Linda Adams raised a toast to the newlyweds, her voice filled with emotion as she spoke of her pride in her son and her welcome to Melissa as a daughter. Edward's speech brought tears to many eyes as he recounted the journey he had witnessed, from James's first day as a novice receptionist to the man he had become. "In all my years," he said, his voice choked with emotion, "I've never seen two people more perfectly suited for each other or more deserving of happiness." As the night wore on, James and Melissa took to the dance floor, swaying gently to the music, lost in each other's eyes. Around them, their guests, a mix of hotel staff, family members, and business associates, mingled and celebrated, barriers of class and status forgotten in the joy of the moment. To those watching, it was clear that this wedding represented more than just the union of two people. It was a symbol of transformation, of bridges built and lessons learned. James and Melissa's love story had touched countless lives, inspiring others to look beyond the surface and value the things that truly matter in life. As the reception wound down and guests began to depart, James and Melissa stood at the entrance of the hotel, thanking each person for sharing in their special day. The love and well wishes that surrounded them were a testament to the impact they had made on so many lives. Looking out at the night sky, stars twinkling above the peaceful coastal town, James and Melissa knew that this was just the beginning of their journey together. They had plans to revolutionize the Adams hotel chain, to create a company culture that valued every employee and prioritized genuine guest experiences. But for now, they were content to savor this moment, surrounded by love and filled with hope for the future. Dear viewers, we want to express our heartfelt gratitude for staying with us through this beautiful journey of love, growth, and self-discovery. Your unwavering support and enthusiasm have made sharing James and Melissa's story an absolute pleasure. We hope their tale has touched your hearts as much as it has touched ours. As we approach the conclusion of this chapter in their lives, we invite you to stay with us just a little longer. The best is yet to come, and we wouldn't want you to miss the final, heartwarming moments of this incredible story. Your presence and engagement mean the world to us, and we promise that the ending will be worth every second of your time. Thank you for being part of this experience, and we look forward to sharing the beautiful conclusion with you. Let's see together how James and Melissa's love story unfolds in its final, touching moments. As the newlyweds embarked on their honeymoon, James and Melissa chose a destination that perfectly encapsulated their journey, a quaint, family-owned inn nestled in the mountains. This choice was a deliberate step away from the luxury resorts they could easily afford, reflecting their desire to stay connected to the essence of hospitality they had come to cherish. The inn, a charming wooden structure surrounded by towering pines and crystal-clear streams, welcomed them with warmth that went beyond mere professional courtesy. The elderly couple who owned the place, Martha and George, treated them like family from the moment they arrived. On their first evening, as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in vibrant hues, James turned to Melissa with a thoughtful expression. "You know, this place reminds me of something important," he said, his voice soft with realization. Melissa leaned into him, curious. "What's that, love?" "It reminds me that the heart of hospitality isn't about luxury or extravagance. It's about making people feel at home, no matter where they are," James explained, his eyes scanning the simple yet cozy surroundings. Melissa nodded, a smile playing on her lips. "That's exactly what we want to bring to the Adams hotel chain, isn't it? That feeling of genuine warmth and care." As their honeymoon progressed, James and Melissa found themselves not just relaxing but also learning. They spent time with Martha and George, listening to their stories of decades in the hospitality industry. The elderly couple shared wisdom about the importance of personal touches, the value of knowing your guests, and the art of creating a space that feels like a second home. One afternoon, as they helped Martha prepare homemade cookies for the guests, she imparted a piece of advice that struck a chord with both of them. "The secret," she said, her hands expertly shaping the dough, "is to treat every guest like they're the most important person in the world, because to them, their experience is the most important thing at that moment." This philosophy resonated deeply with James and Melissa, reinforcing their vision for the future of the Adams hotel chain. They spent evenings discussing how they could implement these ideas on a larger scale, how to maintain that personal touch even in luxury establishments. Their honeymoon wasn't just about planning for the future, though. They took time to enjoy each other's company, to revel in the joy of their new marriage. They went on hikes through the lush forests, had picnics by babbling brooks, and spent quiet evenings stargazing, talking about their dreams and hopes for the future. As their time at the inn drew to a close, James and Melissa felt refreshed and inspired. They had entered this honeymoon as newlyweds, excited about their future together, but they were leaving with a renewed sense of purpose and a clearer vision of how they wanted to shape that future. On their last evening, as they packed their bags, they found a surprise waiting for them, a small, hand-carved wooden plaque with the inn's name and the year of their stay. Attached was a note from Martha and George. To James and Melissa. "May you always remember that true hospitality comes from the heart. Your love for each other and your passion for making others feel welcome will take you far. Come back and visit us anytime. With love, Martha and George. The gesture brought tears to their eyes, a poignant reminder of the impact genuine care and attention can have on guests. As they drove back to Seaview, James and Melissa were quiet, each lost in thought about the experiences they had shared and the lessons they had learned. The Adams Grand Hotel came into view, its familiar silhouette against the coastal sky a welcome sight. "You know," Melissa said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I think we're ready for this. Ready to take on the challenge of reshaping the Adams Hotel chain." James reached over and squeezed her hand, his heart full of love and determination. "With you by my side, I feel ready for anything." As they stepped into the hotel lobby, they were greeted by a chorus of welcome back from the staff. Edward was there, his face beaming with fatherly pride. Linda Adams stood beside him, a warm smile on her face that spoke volumes about how much she had come to appreciate the hotel staff during James and Melissa's absence. In that moment, surrounded by the people who had become their second family, James and Melissa knew they were exactly where they were meant to be. They were home, ready to begin the next chapter of their lives together. The coming months and years would bring challenges as they worked to implement their vision across the Adams Hotel chain. There would be resistance from those set in old ways, skepticism from board members who didn't understand their approach, and the everyday hurdles of running a large corporation. But James and Melissa were prepared. They had each other, they had the support of their hotel family, and most importantly, they had a shared vision of what hospitality could and should be. They were ready to lead the Adams Hotel chain into a new era, one where every guest would feel the warmth and personal touch that had made their own love story possible. As they looked at each other, their eyes shining with love and determination, they knew that this was just the beginning of their greatest adventure yet. Together, they would redefine luxury hospitality, not through extravagance, but through genuine care, respect, and the simple yet powerful act of making everyone feel at home. As James and Melissa settled into their new roles at the helm of the Adams Hotel chain, they faced the daunting task of implementing their vision across a vast network of properties. Their goal was clear: to infuse every hotel with the warmth, personal touch, and genuine care they had experienced at the Seaview location. The first few months were a whirlwind of activity. They traveled extensively, visiting each hotel in the chain to meet with staff, understand the unique challenges of each property, and share their vision for the future. At every stop, they made a point of working alongside employees at all levels, from housekeeping to management, to get a first-hand understanding of the day-to-day operations. Their approach was met with mixed reactions. Some employees were skeptical, viewing James and Melissa's hands-on style as a publicity stunt. Others were inspired by their genuine interest and commitment to improving both guest experiences and working conditions. One particularly memorable moment came during their visit to a struggling hotel in a major city. The property had been underperforming for years, with low occupancy rates and poor reviews. As James and Melissa toured the facility, they noticed a palpable sense of dejection among the staff. During a meeting with the hotel's management team, James asked a simple question that would become a cornerstone of their leadership philosophy: if this were your own home and these guests were your personal friends, how would you want them to feel when they stayed here? The question sparked a lively discussion, and by the end of the meeting, there was a renewed sense of purpose among the team. Over the next few months, that hotel underwent a remarkable transformation, not through expensive renovations, but through a shift in mindset and approach to hospitality. Back at the Adams Grand Hotel in Seaview, which had become their home base, James and Melissa worked tirelessly to develop new training programs and policies that would support their vision. They enlisted Edward's help in creating a mentorship program, pairing experienced staff members with new hires to foster a sense of community and shared purpose. Melissa spearheaded an initiative to improve employee benefits and working conditions across the chain, believing that happy, well-cared-for staff would naturally provide better care for guests. This included implementing more flexible scheduling, improving healthcare benefits, and creating clear paths for career advancement within the company. James focused on reimagining the guest experience, drawing inspiration from their honeymoon at the Mountain Inn. He introduced a local touch program, encouraging each hotel to showcase the unique culture and flavors of its location. This ranged from partnering with local artisans to provide in-room decor, to offering guests insider tips on hidden gems in each city. Their efforts began to pay off. Gradually, reviews improved, occupancy rates increased, and the Adams Hotel chain began to gain a reputation for offering a uniquely personal and authentic experience. Industry publications took notice, praising the young couple's innovative approach to luxury hospitality. However, the path wasn't always smooth. There were board members who questioned the cost of some of their initiatives, arguing that luxury hotels should focus on opulence rather than homey touches. James and Melissa stood firm, presenting data that showed the positive impact of their changes not just on guest satisfaction, but on the bottom line as well. Throughout it all, they leaned on each other for support. Late nights poring over reports and early mornings video conferencing with hotel managers across time zones were made bearable by stolen moments together, a quick coffee break on the beach, a quiet dinner at their favorite local restaurant. One evening, as they walked along the shoreline near their home, Melissa turned to James with a smile. "You know, when I first met you or thought I met you, I never imagined this is where we'd end up." James chuckled, squeezing her hand. "Life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it? But I wouldn't change a thing." As they continued their stroll, Melissa suddenly stopped, her face pale. James looked at her with concern. "Mel, are you okay?" Melissa took a deep breath, a mix of nervousness and excitement in her eyes. "James, I think I'm pregnant." The world seemed to stand still for a moment as James processed her words. Then a wide grin spread across his face. He swept Melissa into his arms, spinning her around as joyous laughter erupted from both of them. As he set her down, James placed a gentle hand on Melissa's stomach, his eyes filled with wonder. "A baby. We're going to be parents." The news of Melissa's pregnancy brought a new dimension to their lives and their work. As they prepared for the arrival of their child, they found themselves looking at their hotels through the lens of family friendliness. They began to implement changes to make their properties more accommodating to families with young children, from offering baby-proofing kits to creating kids' activity programs that went beyond the standard pool and game room. The pregnancy also strengthened their resolve to create a company culture that truly valued work-life balance. They used their own experience to inform policies on parental leave, childcare support, and flexible working arrangements for all employees. As Melissa's due date approached, the entire Adams Hotel family rallied around them. Edward, who was overjoyed at the prospect of becoming a grandfather figure, took on more responsibilities to allow James and Melissa to prepare for the baby's arrival. Linda Adams, who had fully embraced her role as a hands-on leader, ensured that everything at the company headquarters ran smoothly. The day Melissa went into labor, the Adams Grand Hotel was abuzz with excitement. Staff members anxiously awaited news, sending a steady stream of well wishes and offers of support. After several hours of labor, James and Melissa welcomed their son, Charles Edward Adams, into the world. As James held his newborn son, with Melissa resting peacefully beside them, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. This journey that had begun with a desire to find himself had led him to so much more true love, a sense of purpose, and now the joy of fatherhood. Looking down at Charles, James made a silent promise. He would strive to create a world both within their family and within the Adams Hotel chain where kindness, authenticity, and the value of every individual were paramount. It was a lofty goal, but with Melissa by his side and their extended hotel family supporting them, James knew that anything was possible. As news of Charles's birth spread through the hotel chain, celebrations erupted in Adams properties around the world. It was more than just the birth of the heir to the Adams Hotel empire. It was a symbol of the new era of hospitality that James and Melissa had ushered in, one built on love, compassion, and the belief that every person, whether guest or staff, was part of one big extended family. The arrival of Charles Edward Adams brought a new dimension to James and Melissa's lives, both personally and professionally. As new parents, they found themselves navigating the challenges of balancing their demanding roles at the helm of the Adams Hotel chain with the joys and responsibilities of raising a child. In the early months after Charles's birth, the couple made a conscious decision to lead by example when it came to work-life balance. They adjusted their schedules to ensure that one of them was always available for their son, often taking turns attending meetings and site visits. This approach not only allowed them to be present for Charles's early milestones, but also demonstrated to their employees that it was possible to balance a successful career with a fulfilling family life. The Adams Grand Hotel in Seaview became a second home for little Charles. Staff members delighted in watching him grow, and it wasn't uncommon to see James or Melissa walking through the lobby with Charles in a baby carrier, stopping to chat with guests and employees alike. As Charles grew, so did the Adams Hotel chain's reputation for being uniquely family-friendly. Drawing from their own experiences as new parents, James and Melissa implemented a series of innovations across their properties. They introduced family suites designed with both parents and children in mind, featuring separate sleeping areas, child-proofed spaces, and amenities like bottle warmers and diaper-changing stations. One particularly successful initiative was the Little Hotelier program, where children could participate in age-appropriate activities that mimicked hotel operations. From mini check-in desks to supervised cooking classes in the hotel kitchens, the program was a hit with families and helped foster a new generation's interest in hospitality. These family-oriented changes not only improved guest satisfaction but also had a positive impact on bookings, with many properties seeing an increase in family vacations and multi-generational travel groups. On the business side, James and Melissa continued to push for reforms that prioritized employee well-being. They expanded their parental leave policy, making it one of the most generous in the industry. They also established on-site childcare facilities at larger properties and partnered with local childcare providers for smaller hotels, easing the burden on working parents. Their approach to leadership continued to be hands-on and empathetic. They made it a point to know their employees not just as workers, but as individuals with lives and responsibilities outside of work. This personal touch fostered a sense of loyalty and commitment among staff that translated into exceptional service for guests. As Charles approached his first birthday, James and Melissa decided it was time to take a family vacation not as hotel owners, but as regular guests. They chose a small, family-run resort in a quiet coastal town, much like the one where they had spent their honeymoon. During this trip, they experienced firsthand the challenges of traveling with a young child, from the logistics of packing all the necessary baby gear to the struggle of finding child-friendly activities. Every aspect of the vacation was a learning experience. But it was also a joy to see Charles's face light up at new experiences, his first time feeling sand between his toes, his wonder at seeing the ocean. This vacation proved to be another source of inspiration for the couple. Upon their return, they set about implementing changes to make traveling with children easier for their guests. They introduced services like pre-order baby supplies, so families didn't have to pack bulky items like diapers and formula. They also created curated lists of family-friendly activities and restaurants for each hotel location. As Charles grew from a baby into a toddler, James and Melissa found that their parenting journey continued to inform their business decisions. When Charles started showing an interest in the world around him, always asking why, it inspired them to create a culture of curiosity and continuous learning within their organization. They encouraged employees at all levels to ask questions, suggest improvements, and never stop learning about the art of hospitality. The couple's commitment to creating a family-friendly work environment extended beyond policies and into the very design of their corporate offices. They created a colorful, welcoming childcare center right in the heart of their headquarters, complete with large windows so parents could peek in on their children throughout the day. The sound of children's laughter became a regular part of the office ambience, serving as a constant reminder of the importance of family. On Charles's second birthday, James and Melissa organized a celebration that included not just family and friends, but also many of the hotel staff who had become like extended family. The party was held in the Adams Grand Hotel's ballroom, transformed for the occasion into a whimsical wonderland that delighted children and adults alike. As they watched Charles play with the children of their employees, James and Melissa exchanged a look of contentment. They had created something truly special, not just a successful business, but a community where work and family life could coexist harmoniously. That evening, after the party had wound down and Charles was tucked into bed, James and Melissa stood on the balcony of their suite, overlooking the peaceful ocean. "You know," James said, wrapping an arm around Melissa's waist, "when I started this journey, I was just looking to find myself. I never imagined I'd find all of this, you Charles, this amazing extended family we've created." Melissa leaned into him, smiling. "And we're just getting started. Think of all the lives we can touch, all the families we can help, through our work." As they stood there, contemplating the future, they felt a sense of excitement and purpose. They had transformed the Adams Hotel chain into more than just a business. It was a vision of what the world could be when compassion, family, and hospitality came together. And with Charles growing up immersed in this world, they knew that their legacy would continue for generations to come. The story of James and Melissa Adams was far from over. It was, in many ways, just beginning. With each new challenge, each new idea, and each new life touched by their vision, they were writing a new chapter in the book of modern hospitality, one where luxury was defined not by opulence, but by the warmth of feeling truly at home, no matter where in the world you might be. As the years passed, the Adams Hotel chain continued to flourish under James and Melissa's innovative leadership. Their approach to hospitality, which emphasized genuine care and family-friendly policies, had not only transformed their own properties, but had begun to influence the industry as a whole. Charles, now a curious and energetic 5-year-old, had become a fixture in the Adams Grand Hotel. Staff and regular guests alike delighted in his presence, watching him grow from the baby they had first welcomed into the world to a little boy with his father's charm and his mother's compassion. One sunny morning, as James was giving Charles an impromptu tour of the hotel lobby, explaining the check-in process in terms a child could understand, he noticed his son's keen interest. "Daddy," Charles asked, his eyes wide with curiosity, "when I grow up, can I work in the hotel too?" James chuckled, ruffling his son's hair affectionately. "Of course you can, buddy. But remember, you can be anything you want to be. The most important thing is to find something you love, and that helps other people." This innocent question from Charles sparked a new idea for James and Melissa. They realized that nurturing a love for hospitality and service in the next generation could ensure the longevity of their vision. This led to the creation of the Future Hoteliers program, an initiative that would have far-reaching impacts. The program started small, with workshops for employees' children during school holidays. Kids would learn about different aspects of hotel operations through fun, interactive activities. They would check in stuffed animal guests, prepare simple meals in the kitchen under chef supervision, and even participate in mock staff meetings. As news of the program spread, guests began inquiring if their children could participate too. James and Melissa saw an opportunity to extend their educational initiative beyond their staff's families. They expanded the program, offering it as a unique activity for young guests staying at their hotels. The Future Hoteliers program quickly became a hit, setting the Adams Hotel chain apart from competitors. Families would specifically choose Adams hotels for their vacations, knowing their children would have engaging, educational experiences. More importantly, it was instilling values of service, empathy, and hard work in a new generation. Meanwhile, James and Melissa continued to innovate in other areas. They launched a sustainability initiative across all their properties, implementing eco-friendly practices and partnering with local communities for conservation efforts. This not only reduced their environmental impact but also created unique experiences for guests, such as sea turtle conservation activities at their coastal properties. Their commitment to employee welfare remained steadfast. They introduced a profit-sharing scheme, ensuring that every employee, from housekeeping staff to senior management, benefited from the company's success. They also established a fund to assist employees in times of personal crisis, embodying their belief that the hotel staff was more than just employees, they were family. As Charles grew older, he began to take a more active interest in the family business. By the time he was 10, he was spending his summer holidays shadowing different departments, learning the ins and outs of hotel operations from the ground up, much like James had done years ago. One day, as James watched Charles enthusiastically helping to prepare welcome baskets for guests, Melissa came up beside him. "He reminds me of you, she said softly. That same eagerness to learn, that desire to make people feel welcome." James nodded, a lump forming in his throat. "I just hope we're giving him the freedom to choose his own path, like my parents eventually did for me." Melissa squeezed his hand reassuringly. "We are. But I have a feeling that this might be his calling too. He's grown up seeing how much joy this work brings us, how it's more than just a business, it's a way of touching lives." As the Adams Hotel chain celebrated its 50th anniversary, James and Melissa decided it was time for a bold new venture. They announced plans to open a hospitality school, one that would embody all the principles they had cultivated over the years. The Adams School of Hospitality would be unlike any other. While it would teach the practical skills needed in the industry, its core curriculum would focus on empathy, cultural understanding, and the art of making people feel truly at home. The school would offer scholarships to students from underprivileged backgrounds, embodying the Adams belief that everyone deserved a chance to succeed. The announcement of the school was met with overwhelming positivity. Industry leaders praised the initiative, seeing it as a much-needed step in elevating the standards of hospitality education. Many of the Adams' long-time employees volunteered to serve as guest lecturers, eager to share their wealth of experience with the next generation. As James and Melissa stood on the grounds where the school would be built, they felt a sense of coming full circle. What had started as James's personal journey of self-discovery had grown into a movement that was shaping the future of hospitality. Charles, now in his early teens, stood beside them, his eyes shining with excitement as he looked over the architectural plans. "This is amazing," he said. "Think of all the people who will learn here, all the lives that will be touched." James and Melissa exchanged a proud glance. Their son had grown into a thoughtful young man, one who understood that true success was measured not in profits, but in positive impact. As the sun set over the site of the future school, casting a warm glow over the landscape, the Adams family stood together, arms around each other. They were no longer just hoteliers, they were custodians of a legacy of kindness, empathy, and genuine hospitality. The story of James and Melissa Adams, which had begun with a simple desire to find authenticity, had blossomed into something far greater. It was a testament to the power of love, vision, and the unwavering belief that every person, whether guest or staff, deserved to feel valued and at home. As they looked towards the future, James and Melissa knew that their journey was far from over. With each new day, each new guest, and each new student who would pass through the doors of their school, they had the opportunity to spread their message of warmth and genuine care a little further into the world. And in doing so, they were not just changing the hospitality industry, they were, in their own way, making the world a little bit better, one warm welcome at a time. As we reach the end of this heartwarming journey with James, Melissa, and their growing family, we hope you've enjoyed following their story as much as we've enjoyed sharing it. Their tale of love, personal growth, and transforming an industry through genuine care and innovation is truly inspiring. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this story. How has it touched you? What moments resonated with you the most? Perhaps you've had similar experiences in your own life or career? Your feedback is invaluable to us and helps shape the content we create. If this story has moved you, inspired you, or simply brightened your day, we encourage you to leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Share your favorite parts, your reflections, or even how you think their story might continue. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting and thought-provoking stories like this one. By engaging with our content, you're not just supporting us, you're joining a community of like-minded individuals who believe in the power of storytelling to inspire change and spread positivity. Remember, every comment, like, and subscription helps us reach more people with these meaningful narratives. So take a moment to share your thoughts, your voice matters, and we can't wait to hear from you. Thank you for being part of this journey with us. Until next time, may you find warmth and genuine hospitality wherever you go, just as James and Melissa have shown us is possible.